Hi there, good to be back. Today we shall be reading Chapter 25, God or Country. By the great Lord Brahma, growled Vrigu. Vrigu had finally reached Devagiri. He had been delayed on the recently built road between Dharmakhet in Swadweep and Meluha by the floodwaters of an overflowing Yamuna, which had submerged the pathway. While he was stuck in this no-man's land between the Chandravanshi and Suryavanshi empires, Vrigu availed of the facilities of the traveller's guest house, built by the Meluhans alongside the road. Not that its comforts calmed him though, for he needed to be in Devagiri. What did alleviate his stress was the arrival of Parvateshwar along with Anandamayi. They travelled together from there onwards, and Vrigu used this opportunity to discuss battle strategy with him. The flooding of the Yamuna had transformed what should have been a quick journey of a few weeks into many months. Vrigu, Daksha, Parvateshwar and Kanakhala conferred in the private royal office of Devagiri, examining the ramifications of the Nilkant's proclamation. "May I see the notice, Maharishiji?" asked Parvateshwar. Vrigu handed over the stone tablet and then turned to Daksha and Kanakhala. "When were they put up?" "A few months ago, my lord," said Daksha. "At all major temples in practically every city within the empire," added Kanakhala. "And was this a simultaneous event, orchestrated on the same day?" asked Parvateshwar, obviously impressed by the logistical feat. "Yes," said Kanakhala. "Only the Nilkant could have organized this. But why would he do it? He loves Meluha and we worship him. We therefore assume that it had to be someone else who was trying to slander the reputation of our Lord. Sadly, we still haven't made any headway in our investigation and do not know who the real perpetrators are." "Do you have traitors in your administration, Your Highness?" asked Vrigu. Daksha bristled, but did not dare make his anger apparent. "Certainly not, my lord. You can trust the Meluhans like you trust me." Vrigu's ironic smile did not leave much to the imagination. "What do you make of it, Lord Parvateshwar?" "I would have expected nothing less from the Nilkant," said Parvateshwar. Kanakhala was stunned by this revelation, but prudently chose silence. "But I must tell you that we responded well, my lord," said Daksha to Vrigu. "They were removed within a few days and were replaced with official notices stating that the earlier ones had been put up by a fraud and should not be believed." Kanakhala reeled from shock. She had inadvertently sinned when she put up the new notices that Daksha had asked her to, and become party to a lie. She considered resigning from her position. However, it was obvious that a war was imminent, and her wartime duties were clear: complete and unquestioning loyalty to the king and country. She had never faced a situation where her duties stood in direct conflict with her dharma. The confusion was bewildering. "So you see, my lord, this particular problem has been handled," said Daksha. "We need to now focus on how to repel Shiva's forces." Vrigu gestured towards Daksha. "Not now, Your Highness. Let me first confer with General Parvateshwar in private." Kanakhala was still lost in the turmoil within her conscience and did not notice the exchange. "The proclamation was made by the Lord Nilkant. How can we go against his word? This is wrong. If the Lord says that the Somras is not to be used, then I don't see how we can go against this diktat." Parvateshwar had accompanied Kanakhala to her office after the meeting. He could tell that she was very disturbed by the events of the morning. "I have already stopped using the Somras, Kanakhala." "As will I, from this instant. But that is not what troubles me. The Nilkant wants the whole of Meluha to stop using the Somras, and the consequence of ignoring his decision are very clear from his message. If we don't, then we become his enemies. I am aware of that. For all practical purposes, war had already been declared. His army is mobilizing even as we speak. Meluha must stop using the Somras. Does that law allow either you or me to pass an order banning the Somras? No, only the Emperor can do that. And he hasn't, has he? Also, the Emperor's orders are unquestionable in times of war. Can't we avoid a war in some way? Why don't you speak to Maharishi Vrigu? He respects you. The Maharishi is not convinced that the Somras has turned evil. Then we should approach the people directly. Kanakhala, you know better than that. It would mean breaking your oath as Prime Minister, since you would be directly going against the order of your Emperor. But why should I follow his orders? He made me lie to our own people. I assure you that nothing like that will happen again for as long as I am alive and in Meluha. Kanakhala looked away as she struggled to get a grip over her raging emotions. Kanakhala, let's say we do approach the Meluhans directly, said Parvateshwar. We will have to convince our countrymen to voluntarily choose to end their life much before it normally would have, and we will have nothing to give them in return. Convincing people to do that is not an easy task, even with those as duty-bound and honorable as the Meluhans. It will take time. The Nilkant, however, is not patient when it comes to the Somras. He wants its use to end right now. The only way he can do that is to attack the epicenter. Which is Meluha? Exactly. Right now our task is to protect our country. You know Lord Ram's law stated very clearly that our primary duty is towards our country. He had said that even if it comes to choosing between Lord Ram and Meluha, we should choose Meluha. Who would have imagined that it would actually come down to such a choice, Parvateshwar? That we would need to choose between our God and our country? Parvateshwar smiled sadly. My duty to my country is above all others, Kanakhala. Kanakhala ran her hand over her bald pate and touched the knotted tuft of hair at the back of her head, trying to draw strength from it. What kind of challenge is fate throwing at us? It's a stupid idea, Your Highness, said Vrigu. Your problem is that you do not look beyond the next 3 months when you dream up your strategies. Daksha had been sitting expectantly at the Maharishi's feet, eagerly awaiting his response, for he had just unfolded to Vrigu his brilliant scheme to avoid the war altogether. An unmoved Vrigu then leaned towards him from his stone bed. We are not fighting the Nilkant, but the devotion that he inspires in your people. Making him a martyr will turn your people against you, and inevitably the Somras. Daksha expressed acknowledgement. You are right, my lord. Had we succeeded in killing him in Pantavati, the people would have blamed the Nagas. That failure was most unfortunate. Also, Your Highness, while it is not unethical to attack an unprepared enemy, there are some codes that just cannot be broken. Even in times of war, like killing a peace ambassador or even a messenger. Of course, my lord, said a distracted Daksha. His mind, in fact, was already working on refining his plan. Are you listening, Your Highness? Asked an irritated Vrigu. A chastened Daksha looked up immediately. Of course I am, my lord. Vrigu sighed and waved his hand, dismissing him from his chamber. Parvateshwar strode into his house and nodded towards the attendant even as he ran up the steps that skirted the central courtyard. As he approached the first floor, he seemed to remember something and stepped back towards the landing overlooking the central courtyard. "Rati?" "Yes, my lord," answered the attendant. "Isn't it the day of the week when Lady Anandamayi bathes in milk and rose petals?" asked Parvateshwar. "Yes, my lord. Warm water on all days of the week except the day of the sun, when she bathes in milk and rose petals." Parvateshwar smiled. "So is it ready?" Rati smiled indulgently. She had served Parvateshwar her entire life, but had never seen her master smile as much as he had in the last few days, since he had returned with the new mistress. "It will be ready any moment now, my lord." "Be sure to inform the lady as soon as it's ready." "Yes, my lord." Parvateshwar turned and ran up the remaining 2 flights of stairs before reaching his private chamber on top. He found Anandamayi relaxing in the balcony on a comfortable chair as she observed the goings-on in the streets below. A cloth canopy screened out the evening sun. She turned around as she heard Parvateshwar rush in. "What's the hurry?" asked a smiling Anandamayi. Parvateshwar stopped, smiling broadly. "I just wanted to know how you're doing." Anandamayi smiled and beckoned Parvateshwar. The Meluhan general walked over and sat down beside her on the armrest. Anandamayi rested her head on his arm, and she continued to study the street below. The markets were still open, but unlike the loud and garrulous Chandravanshis, the citizens of Devagiri were achingly polite. The road, the houses, the people, everything reflected the prized Suryavanshi values of sobriety, dignity, and uniformity. "What do you think of our capital?" asked Parvateshwar. "Isn't it astonishingly well planned and orderly?" Anandamayi looked at Parvateshwar with an indulgent smile playing on her lips. "It's heartbreakingly lackluster and colourless." Parvateshwar laughed. "You are more than enough to add colour to this city." Anandamayi placed her hand on Parvateshwar's as she remarked, "So this is the land where I will die." Parvateshwar turned his hand around and held hers in reply. "Any news?" asked Anandamayi. "Has the Lord entered the territory of Meluha?" "No reports as yet," said Parvateshwar. "But what is truly worrying is the absence of bird couriers from Ayodhya." Anandamayi's visage transformed as she straightened up with concern. "Has Ayodhya been conquered?" "I don't know, darling, but I don't think the Lord has enough men to conquer Ayodhya. The city has 7 concentric walls, albeit badly designed. That is formidable defense, even if the soldiers are ill-trained." Anandamayi narrowed her eyes in irritation. "They are poorly led, Parvateshwar, but the soldiers are brave men. My country's generals may be idiots, but the commoners will fight hard for their homeland." "This reinforces my argument that the Lord Nilkant couldn't have conquered Ayodhya with just the 150,000 soldiers of Branga and Vaishali." "So what do you think happened?" "Clearly, Meluhan interests are not being served in Ayodhya. One possibility is that your father, King Dilipa, has aligned with the Nilkant." "Impossible. My father is too much in love with himself. He's getting medicines from Lord Vrigu, which is keeping him alive. He will not risk that for anything." "The people of Ayodhya may have rebelled against their king and thrown in their lot with the Nilkant." That's possible. My people are certainly more devoted to the Nilkant than to my father. And if the Nilkant has Ayodhya under control, he will quickly turn his attention to his main objective, Meluha. He aims to destroy the Somras Parva." He will not indulge in wanton destruction. Why would he do that? It would turn your people against him. He will only go for the Somras. Parvateshwar's eyes flashed open. Of course, he will target the secret Somras manufacturing facility and its scientists. That would end the supply of the Somras. People will have no choice but to learn to live without it. There you are. That's his target. Where is this secret Somras manufacturing facility? I don't know, but I will find out. Yes, you should. In any case, said Parvateshwar, I have told Kanakhala not to send any more messages to Ayodhya. We could just be passing on information to the enemy. If Ayodhya is already in their control and they leave now, they could be in Meluha quite soon. Yes, it could be as early as 6 months. Also, along with Ayodhya, the Lord would have a massive army. Redouble your preparations. I will also order Vidun Mali to leave for Lothal with 20,000 soldiers. Lothal? Just because they didn't send you their monthly report? Isn't that a bit of an overreaction? I don't have a good feeling about them, said Parvateshwar, slowly shaking his head. They didn't respond to my bird courier. Can you afford to send 20,000 soldiers away based on a mere hunch? Lothal is not too far away. Also, it's a border town. It is the closest Meluhan city from Panchavati. It may not be such a bad idea to reinforce it.